Allen, you have the next question.
Well,
for yes on
let me follow up here, because if you, and we are to believe the numbers, the Spanish-speaking immigrant children do have the lowest test scores and the highest dropout rate. But what makes you believe that that's the fault of bilingual education?
Well, sadly, as it may sound, the schools throughout California are in a real pathetic state. What are they? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they were at the reading were at the lowest, next to Guam and Louisiana. So yes, bilingual education is it's worse. Now we have to start somewhere, and bilingual education is a good start, because bilingual education, by all measured by all statistics, has failed.
All right, Mr. Vega, thank you very much. Rebuttal?
Yes. You know, what we know is, and Delane Easton just announced, that the dropout rate has substantially been lowered for every category of students. But what's important to know is, out of all the 1.4 million children who need to develop English proficiency, only 30% of them ever see the inside of a bilingual classroom. 70% of all the kids in this state are in English-only programs. Now, back to Alice Callahan's kids. Her kids had a 2.7 redesignation rate. Gloria Tuckman's kids had a 0% redesignation rate. Jaime Escalante, the honorary chairperson of this, said it takes kids 2, if not 3 years to develop English proficiency. 180 days is a failed program. It will not help the kids. It'll make matters worse.
All right. All right, Laura, next question is yours.
This goes to the opponents of Proposition 227. California is a very large state. Do you think Proposition 227, which would implement the same program in school districts that would stretch from Eureka to San Diego, will work?
Actually, we have very hard evidence showing that Proposition 227 will not work. It will take California's limited English-speaking children, give them just 180 days to learn English, which no one except Ron Unz thinks can work. It will also deny them education in core curriculum. No math, no science, no history for an entire year, keeping these children 1 year behind every other child. It allows teachers to be sued if they speak in any language other than English. And also, the point that you brought up is that it will deny teachers and parents and local school districts to implement the best programs for that particular district. We have such variety here in the state of California in terms of educational needs. And that's why the State Board of Education voted on March 13th.
Ms. Thier, you're out of time.
Thank you.
Okay, to respond to that, we have had mandatory bilingual education for virtually every school district in the state of California for the last 25 years. The system has failed. The opposition is making up statistics that have no truth to them. Right now, 1/3 of the students in California are in full-fledged native language programs, and another 1/3 are in English programs with extensive use of the native language. Approximately 60 to 70% of all limited English Latino students in the state of California in elementary school are in native language programs that use a lot of Spanish. Those are the children failing in our public schools. Let's look at the facts. Of all the immigrant groups in California, the one immigrant group that is given large quantities of native language bilingual instruction are Latino immigrant children, and they do worse than every other immigrant group in the state. It's because of bilingual education that they're failing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Unz. Rosie, you have the next question.
Yes, under Prop 227, parents who want their children taught using the bilingual education system have that option. They can apply for a waiver if the classes aren't offered at their child's school. They can also transfer to another school that has that program, so that bilingual education is still available under 227. So do you object to that plan?
I guess I'll...
For the noes?
It's for the... Is it for the no?
For the no.
For the no.
For the no.
Please take that question.
You know, it would be nice if that were true, except if you read very clearly in the initiative, for children under the age of 10, that is not an option until 30 days after school has begun. And then a parent has to prove to the school, to the teachers and the principal, that their child is suffering academically, emotionally, psychologically, or physically. That's the only way they get out. So I'm a parent. I bring my child to school. I have a particular preference for my child. The answer is no, and there is no choice. Then even if I were to go through that rigmarole, I have to find 19 others at my grade level who have the same beliefs and the same desire before I get what I might want for my child. And at the end of the day, the school gets to deny it, whether I meet the standards and go through the process.
Right.
And so this waiver system is not tenable.
All right, rebuttal, please.
It
Mr.
is,
Unz.
it is absolutely true that this initiative allows those parents that want to place or keep their children in a bilingual program to apply for a waiver to do so. Now, we have a secret weapon with regard to this initiative. It's called the voter pamphlet. Any ordinary voter gets it in the mail. You can read what the initiative says. You can read our arguments and the other side's arguments and see who's being true and who's distorting the facts. Those parents that want their children in native language programs can apply for a waiver. For older children who are 10 and above, it's quite easy. For younger children, the parents simply have to show that their children would benefit in some ways from not being taught English in the public schools. I think bilingual education is a dreadful failure in the state of California today, but California is a very large state. And in a state this large, there are a few bilingual programs that work well. Those would remain under our initiative.
All right, Mr. Unz, thank you. Laura, if you direct your next question to the yes on 227 side.
Mr. Vega, this question is for you, actually. You set up bilingual education programs in the 70s. Now you say that's a mistake. Some polls show that 84% of Latinos favor Proposition 227. Why do you think it is that those who bilingual education is supposed to help want the program now dismantled?
Well, the initial concept was very much like the dual immersion program that they have now. It would be 50% English-speaking students and 50% Spanish-speaking students. It wasn't long before that, before the English-speaking parents found out that their children were falling behind. And as such, the Latinos were remaining in the program. But as they stayed in the program, the districts found out that the program was good for bringing in revenues. And now the whole bilingual program is driven by money. The more students that the district holds back, the more money the district makes. So there's an incentive there not to transition students, because for every children that they transition, the district loses money.
All right, Mr. Vega, thank you very much. Rebuttal, please.
Yes. I'm glad you asked about the polling, because what the polls show is that Proposition 227 is losing in the Latino community. The poll you're referring to, the field poll, they went out, they talked to 86 Latinos. That's hardly a mandate. Now, the polling actually shows, with the larger sample size, shows that Proposition 227 is losing in the Latino community. The split is 45 to 46. In addition, Ron, I have heard you now for months bash the Latino community. Latinos are not, they do not have the highest dropout rate. Delane Easton just came out with some figures that show that their dropout rate is significantly lower than the statewide average. In addition, there was a national study done by Rombant who said that immigrant children are actually outperforming native children, people that were born here in the United States.
All right. You're out of time. Forgive me for interrupting. Earlier in the week, as you may know if you watch Channel 7 News, we asked members of our viewing audience to fax or email questions that they had regarding Prop 227. So here's one that both sides will have a chance to answer, and we're going to start with the yes on 227 side. And I don't know who this is from, unfortunately, but it was faxed to us. For children who immigrate in their teenage years, their education has already been interrupted. How do you keep them in school? How do you propose to educate them without alienating them?
I'd like to answer that.
Please, Mr. Vega.
You know, if a teenager comes here, that's 12, 14, and 16 years old, they already know their language. They know Spanish, or they know Russian. You know, it's ludicrous to assign a student that's already know the language and say, pues, now we're going to have to teach you Spanish. That student's already had 6 or 8 years, and we're going to waste 4 more years, 6 more years teaching them Spanish. Those students need English, and they need it bad and fast, and we're not getting that.
All right, Mr. Vega, thank you. Rebuttal, please.
Yes, you know,